A lot of business is a vanity project. I think people obsess over like a website, and they obsess over getting the product perfect. And what if no one wanted it anyway?
Hey everyone, welcome to Aha Moments podcast with me, Kobi Omenaka. Today's guest is Laura Pomfret from Financielle.
I didn't want to be the party planner.
Financielle is an amazing example of how an MVP, minimum viable product, can start from a very, very low starting point. So initially this was an Instagram account, and then became a spreadsheet, and then a few steps along became an app.
I think that kind of was the nail in the coffin for my legal career.
Laura is amazing. She talks about how just positioning your finances in a different way can help you achieve things you hadn't thought you could believe.
All the revenue that we took from the selling the PDFs and the spreadsheets to build an app using engineers on Upwork.
She talks about her parents potentially could have been millionaires if they learnt the things that she knows now and the things that she teaches now, and how Financielle has helped people have IVF babies. This was a great conversation with Laura, and I really enjoyed having it, and I hope you guys enjoy listening to it as well. Laura, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
I am doing so well. Thank you for having me, Kobi.
That's been a pleasure. So we met as part of we went for a dinner, a founders dinner, entrepreneurs dinner in Manchester, as part of 9 others, and I actually really liked it. And I was like, I need to go back. Had you been to those before?
No, and I'd wanted to. And I do think one of the special things about the Manchester founder scene and business owner scene is when you find the right events, you just get so much value from them. You get that opportunity to switch off from being in like founder mode and just sharing your experiences. And people are so willing to help. Like they're so friendly and so willing to help that, I absolutely loved it. I will be going back to another.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get back, at some point this quarter, but it was good fun. We might share the links. It's called 9 Others, hosted by Stuart, who founded Twine, and it was yourself and 9 other people, so 10 people around the table. Take a minute to talk about what your challenges are, and people to listen and give you some advice, which you may or may not take, but either way, it's just interesting and inspiring to hear other people's stories, and I really loved it.
Me too.
And one of the things when we met at the time, you mentioned aha moment, you call it a magic moment, which stuck in my head. So I'm going to obviously dive into that with Financielle. But first of all, before we get to Financielle and the amazing app you've created, I'd like to know a bit more about you. So where did you start? Where did your entrepreneurial journey start? So it started in a non-traditional way. I was in corporate law, actually. So I, from a very young age, kind of knew I wanted to go into law. My mum she wasn't a lawyer. She was a contracts manager for quite a big IT company. And I used to listen to her from the age of about 8, probably, on conference calls, which was a long time ago. It was kind of the working from home before it was a thing. Doing these really big deals. And I said to her, I want to do what you do when I grow up. And she said, you want to do what they're doing, because the lawyers, like she was the client and the lawyers were kind of doing all the negotiating and stuff. And it just felt like, big business, that looks fun. So basically at 13, I went, that'll do. And just decided that's what I would do. I mean, I'm very similar to my mum, and she would have been an amazing lawyer actually as well. It just that was never a path that she could have taken. And so when all my friends are trying to work out what they're doing when they grow up and what real careers, I was like, I'm just going to be a lawyer. Made it very easy because one less thing to think about. And, went straight through and joined a really good law firm in Manchester, Adelshaw Goddard, really enjoyed that. And then really, the entrepreneurial journey probably started when I was so interested in every client. I would want to know everything. Probably far too interested in the stuff that, we'd help them out and then they'd go and you'd be like, how did that go? And did that project come off? And how was that deal? And I think I realized I was probably better suited to being on the business and client side than private practice. So we're still safe then, moved to become, I joined a client and went into business. But then I just had an amazing experience on the board as company secretary, listening to these business minds and entrepreneurs who were doing the business. And that really, I think that kind of was the nail in the coffin for my legal career, because I wanted to be at the party. I didn't want to be the party planner. So, I mean, you've touched upon a lot of things there, which I think are fascinating. First of all, at 13, I still don't know what I want to do at 45, but at 13, you had that clarity. Obviously, you've pivoted from there, but like you say, having that clarity helps in so many ways. It helps in business positioning. It helps in like having a focus as to what you want to aim for, so there's fewer distractions. Do you still have that focus when you have a core idea? Do you still have that focus and drive when you pick something up?
I do. And do you know what? I hate decision fatigue. So the mental strain of weighing things up, don't get me wrong, as a lawyer, it's actually quite important, but I've always been quite commercial, and I've always been okay if something didn't work out. Like I don't worry. I worry about some things when you're a mother, it's hard, a parent, it's hard and stuff, and I worry for friends, but I actually don't worry about a decision. Like my husband will agonize over a decision, and whereas I'm like, pick one, because if you don't like what it feels like, it's going to be the other one. And so I do think that helped. I think I wasn't stressed ever about whether this was the right decision, and I had no idea really what a lawyer did, really. But I was just like, that'll do, move on. And I do think I'm still like that now. I don't think I've ever thought about that, but I definitely don't waste time making decisions. Just bam, move on. If it's not right, switch.
And I think that must help now from your owning your own business. And I'm very much the same. I know people in my life who are, should we do X or Y? I'm like, let's just do X. Are you sure? Because Y is I don't care. Either's absolutely fine for me, but also sometimes saying absolutely fine means that signals that you're non-committal, but you're just generally like, can we just do it or not do it? Either way is great. Can we just not spend this intermediate time thinking about it, which ends up, people getting a bit frustrated. I don't know.
No, I'm the same. And do you know what, Kobi? I feel like, as long as there's not a huge downside, like in what I'm doing at work, I'm not, we're helping lives, but I'm not saving lives. Like this isn't like, I wouldn't really like my doctor to be like, should we ever go at this or have a go at that? But we're not, and so sometimes I do think we overthink lots of elements. And whilst that's kind of, I think it was built into us to be cautious, it's definitely part of our nature. Sometimes we overthink the consequences of something. So as long as it's in a safe environment, I would definitely encourage people to just back yourself to make a decision, but don't put pressure on yourself that it has to be the right one, because you can easily switch.
Just as a basic way, when you're at a restaurant with people and they're thinking, do I have pizza or do I have a burger? You're like, fine, just pick one. It'll be a-okay either way. The second thing which you pulled up on there, which I thought was awesome, was it was interesting, was when you're talking about working in a law firm and you had like little snippets and little slivers of working with different clients, and you wanted to know more about what was going on once they finished that call or once you finished that piece of work you were going on. So how did that kind of drive you?
Well, I think I could tell that I was getting, like, I would over research and I would over follow up, and I would always want to know. I don't know why that was more interesting than, it wasn't that it was more interesting from the law, but I think I've taken it forward to Financielle as well, and it's like kind of my work on the BBC and everything. What I've realised I like doing is taking something that's quite complicated or is very industry focused, so full of jargon, quite exclusionary sometimes, and like, okay, how can we make this simple? Like if I've never been afraid to ask the stupid questions in a room. Something my mum taught me very early on. Like sometimes actually I know the answer, but if I can sense other people aren't quite sure, if something hasn't landed, I'm happy to be that person being like, no, can you explain that again? I'm not quite sure. And I feel like I've always liked taking complicating things and breaking them up into smaller chunks and going, okay, is this more digestible? GCSE Bite Size came out when I was doing GCSEs, and I loved the concept of, I can pass my GCSE by doing a little bit at a time. And so when presented with different industries and different clients, I was just always, I'm interested in and being curious and asking why. And, and sometimes it would be, I remember one client once was Pets at Home, and what a lovely kind of relatable retailer that we know. But another client might have been like a grey market pharmaceutical provider, which is essentially like a wholesaler in the media, like quite complicated. But I was still like, okay, how does that work? Like, and then what happens? And you just become so interested that it pulls you in that direction. I think having I think same with people as well. I'm always really fascinated in people's stories and where they come from, because that curiosity just takes you down these like random paths, and you don't know where you're going to end up.
Because I think that's in the marketing side of things. And I had my first career was in engineering, where I worked for a consultancy, and there was always that pull of like, do you work for the consultancy or do you work for the main client, or do you in the agency marketing world, are you client side or agency side? And for me, I think I always would have preferred working as you moved into the client side, because then you get the broader picture, you get from the whole of the funnel, not just a little sliver. You get to experience all the different departments, not just, hey, can you look at this I don't know, this contract. I don't know if you do contract law, but look at this piece of paper and see if that makes sense. And yes, and off you go. And that's your whole involvement with it. But the bigger picture is fascinating to me.
It really is, and because the documenting of it or the navigating of a problem, that's the tip of the iceberg, and everything underneath it is the commercials and the commerce and the trade and how that landed. And I always found it really fascinating. Like when I first started, some of the first contracts I saw were BA contracts, like a massive organization. I was like, these planes that are flying, because I was only 21, 22 when I started. How is this piece of paper, like this purchase contract for, Boeing or whoever, or is it, the big IT outsourcing contract? Like, it's a lot of words and it's very overwhelming and it's very complicated. And at 21, you're kind of stapling, really. You're not actually doing the law. You're working with a partner. But the idea that it connected to something much bigger, I loved, but I definitely didn't like it stopping at the piece of paper and then it going and you're going, oh, okay. So I definitely, another lawyer that does me, he's actually really, really senior in a Manchester business now, and he went into be the commercial director, and he said it was like, I think I said it before, like being a party planner, but then not being invited to the party, and you're like, I was part of that team too. So I definitely think it's very similar to agency and client side, and it's the benefit of the agency side or the professional services side is the breadth of exposure you get to so many different clients and businesses, and the fact that you can come in and bring expertise from a different field and help them out is wonderful. But the downside is it's not very deep, it's quite thin, and then you don't go down. So pluses and minuses to both, but it's also really helpful to do both.
Yes, but I completely agree. No, I'm not going to go down that route. So can you tell me how you went from there to Financielle? Because it's not an obvious step.
No, not is it? Most people go, you're a lawyer, like what the hell is finance? But again, I feel like it's still born out of the same interest and skill set that I do have, which is taking something inherently complicated or exclusionary or like for a certain group of people and breaking it down and making it more accessible. And that was what like my legal career was born out of. When you're an in-house lawyer, people come to you worried if there's a legal letter or worried if there's a contract or stressed about, a personal data query, and everything can just be broken down. And so I've always been quite calm with that side. On a personal level, I went on quite a big money journey where as a young lawyer on a low salary, I was of no interest to any financial advisor. My parents had come from like complete working class backgrounds. I'd actually like worked up to get quite good jobs, but inherently weren't very good with money. They weren't bad, but if they knew what they know now because of me, they would be multimillionaires, and that's not an exaggeration, because of actually the salaries that they were able to earn. But it was spent, like it wasn't spent on investing, and it was spent on poor pension choices. And there's lots of different things that I think they, if we'd have known what we know now, could have been very different for them. They're still very, very lucky, and they're in a really good place. But we just didn't have that knowledge because we were a working class family from Wigan, who literally most people ended up in a council house working very hard, working blue collar jobs and on state pension. And sometimes they get a little bit extra, then you'd done really well. Fast forward to now is a different story. But back then I was like a 22-year-old, kind of knowing I needed to be better with my money and having nothing at school, nothing in my family. Luckily, nothing reckless negatively impacted me. But running up consumer debt, financed car, credit card, building my score. I've just done a call actually with the BBC on that, and we're doing it next week, so it drives me nuts. But just like messing around with stuff, not really knowing. And every time I went to Martin Lewis's website, which was still around back then, it's been going quite a while, and it was just overwhelming. It didn't tell me what to do in what order. So I kind of found myself stuck. So I went on a personal hobby journey really to learn about this stuff, break it all up and try and nail one thing at a time. I learned the concept of emergency saving, which I'd only ever saved for something before, for a holiday or for a car deposit or for something I'd never saved just to have money just in case. I'd learned about the fact that consumer debt is entirely not helpful, that we believe the marketing systems and structures out there about credit scores and about points and loads of different things about it's the cheapest thing you'll ever borrow. But actually years later, people end up in 20, 25 grams worth of debt and they go, oh yeah, it was that good, wasn't it? Like loads of stuff. And then learning about investing, which was something that I didn't realize the pension was investing back then. So I went on whilst doing my legal career, which was a 10-year career, I learned about this, and I think COVID, I became financially well. So when people were talking about money and they were stressed about money, I would always be like the calm one, and people would ask me what I was doing with money. You never seemed like you worried. Like, I obviously wasn't uber wealthy, but I wasn't struggling, and we became a single mum quite young actually as well. So I was managing a household of just the two of us, and it became, on my second maternity leave, a bit of a Instagram hobby. So I had like this anonymous account where I would drop tips and tricks and stuff, and it just kind of blew up. And so, long story short, on the Financielle thing was, I realized that there's a massive overwhelm when it comes to money. Females actually handle money in a very different way. That 85% of spending in the world is controlled by females, because if you think about it, it could be like the family shop, the decision where holidays go, the gifting. Yeah. It actually, even if the money's not necessarily all coming from the female, typically a lot of decisions are. So we've got all these decisions to make, on top of marketing pressures, on top of things like the gender pension gaps and pay gaps and stuff. And so I found my little space, and it just really worked. And in true, product and innovation, if you produce a product that people need, like not the vitamin, but the painkiller, it's like, I need help with this. I need help with my money. I need to do this. It was just massive validation for me that if I don't do this, if I don't productize this and help people manage money in a scalable way, not just me DMing someone one at a time, who is? And so there just did come a point where I just thought, if I want to do this and commercialize it and help as many people as possible, I'm not going to do it DMing people on an Instagram account whilst I'm trying to be, a senior lawyer in a business. It's now. And I just, backed myself and decided to leave quite a secure job in a travel tech business and launch Financielle.
So, I mean, just going back to the lack of financial education at school, I think that as we go forward, education, I think it would be great if it changed in a number of ways. Definitely have you need maths, you need English side of things, but the financial education, I still don't understand why that's not a core thing. Yeah. Like, how do you get? At the moment, we're going through a remortgage, and our mortgage advisor called us like in November saying, "Hey, by the way, your remortgage is up in like January." It's like, cool. And then like 2 weeks before, they were like, okay, here's the details. And then at that point, they said, it's going to take some time to sort this out. And I was like, well, why didn't you say that when you first contacted us? I just thought it'd be like, choose which provider I want to go for. And then, because we went through, licensing, that'd been done already. Didn't think they needed any legal stuff. So at the moment, we're paying like £1,000 a month more for our mortgage because it hasn't been sorted out, because they didn't say, or we didn't know that these things take time. You're just like...
And Kobi, you've got like lots of things to sort out. Life at the moment is really hard. There's like, I've done a piece on the BBC this morning about all the bills that are going up in April, whether it's council tax, water, mobile phone bills, broadband bills, energy bills, the energy fix, the energy cap is increasing. There's lots to remember. And I think, especially when we don't understand the basics of lots of these things, or if we've been told them once, there's something else comes in and it pushes that out. I mean, I remember we had a great work experience girl with us for a little bit. And I remember doing a workshop with her and trying to explain. I was getting her to do her mum's budget for her with pretend numbers. And I was like, and she pays for your nails, great. She pays for some clothes. You go bowling, you get some McDonald's, and we're adding all it up. And I was like, but think about what she pays for. And like, she burst the budget. And I wanted her to do that. I wanted to show her that you have to spend less than you make, because if you don't, you borrowing the difference. She was sat there going like, why don't I do this in class? Like, why am I not being told to do a budget? I mean, I explained to her the concept of a mortgage, and this was a 15-year-old very intelligent girl, and she really hadn't comprehended that her family don't own the house, that they pay someone else, that really the bank owns the house for a very long time. I know technically you own the house and there's charges on it, and I shared our mortgage at the moment. We had really bad timing for renewals. We've got another renewal and it'll bring it down hopefully in the next couple of months. But on a £1,700 mortgage that's gone up about 600 in the past, couple of years, and only 450 is being paid off the principal. So every month, £1,200 is being sent to our lovely bank just for the privilege of borrowing that money. And whereas, 3-4 months ago, it was almost the reverse. It was like, 400 in interest and about 800 at the time going to capital. And if people totted up how much money, they're handing over to the banking interest, they might pay a bit more attention, but it's just a bill that goes out on top of everything else. I think people are forgiven for not knowing everything. I think that's what I'm passionate with Financielle is, can we teach people just enough that they don't have to do a course and they don't have to learn and they don't have to sit and do a webinar, but there's just that nugget that they take and then they make routine and then they can kind of crack on. But some of that starts when you're a teenager.
The other side of things, which isn't financially motivated at all, financially based at all, is just like cooking for yourself. And I'm really looking at like ultra processed foods at the moment, and the amount of times.
Chris, Chris's book. Have you read the book? I can never say. I know his brother's and, but I don't. I can. Yeah, Van Tulloch, I can never say his name. Yeah, yeah. But I'm going to read that book. And actually, my daughter's been doing food tech. And it was so funny because we get that. So she's getting better, but got food tech in the morning. And you're like, oh, okay, let's go to the co op and see what we can buy. And funnily enough, she told me in plenty of time, but she needed pizza bases. Or you could make your own base. Definitely go for the pizza base. It's 7 p.m. at night. We're going to crack on. They didn't have any. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, we're going to have to make our own base. And I was like, of course we can make our own base. Of course we can. And so we made our own base, and she had a less processed pizza because we made the dough the night before together and she took it in. But I was just like, if I'm showing that level of anxiety to her, what's she going to learn? Because I'm like, oh, is there an automatic one that was made 7 years ago?
It's just, that's how education, I feel, should serve how people are going to move forward in their lives. AI is going to change things. Another technology is going to come along and change things.
Yeah, yeah.
When you went to university, when you were at school, you probably had no idea that you could produce an app and help people budget. That probably wasn't. So what I'm doing now, I didn't know that was a career opportunity at the time. So I think we need to teach people a bit more about what the foundations of life, and then on top of that, how to learn things when they need to learn things.
Definitely. These like life skills that you're going to have to navigate, even if the technology changes and even if the system changes, having those basics, it's your toolkit, isn't it? And that's what you want for our children, isn't it? That because of the changes we've seen, we can't forecast what life's going to be like for them, but if they can communicate really well, if they can, problem solve and managing money, whether technology changes or not, in my view, it's been the same for as long as money's been around, making sure that you look after these basic principles that not just financially work, but I think more importantly, Kobi, make you feel better, because this is all about how you feel, would be better off. But yeah, not yet. Martin Lewis did a really good syllabus and handed it to the Department of Education, and it's virtually never been used. I think a few people have done it, but it's there ready, like the King wrote one, and no one's using it yet.
It's something that's it's fundamental, and like I say, if people can save a little bit extra each month, and then very quickly you don't realize that you're saving that money, and then very quickly you have got a bunch of money in your back pocket. I think today someone told me that if you just started off, say, £1 1 week, and then £2 the next week and £3 the next week, over the course of 52 weeks, over the course of a year, you save like £1,300. You just have that there. And very quickly, do you not realize that you're not spending that money, but it's going into an account? And how happy you'd be at the end of the year when you've got this £1,300 when it's Christmas time, for example, and you're like, okay, let's have a bit more fun over Christmas. And it's
game changing. It's something that if you're not practicing it, like life passes by. If we don't tell our money what to do, we don't have a plan for it. Just like most things, it'll find stuff to do, and it will, like I said, with the it might be finding stuff to do at McDonald's and Starbucks or ASOS, but the work experience student we had, I remember showing her a side by side exercise on the concept of compound interest versus mortgage, and that how like they're the same, that it's kind of like it's the opposite effect, and that I was showing her what a junior ISA could do, or if she wanted to open an ISA and save into it and invest it, and for any much she had a job and she was doing nails and stuff, and I was like, if you spent some and you saved some, and that savings was either making a good interest rate or it was invested, let me show you what it could do over time. By the time you get to 26, it could be this. By the time you get to 30, it could be this. By the time you get to 40, it could be this. Time's on your side. She'd never been taught it. Like, that's maths, like compound interest, and it's just maths, but she'd never been showed it. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity.
I'm fully aware that I've not asked you to explain what Financielle is. I know you said about the Instagram account, which is probably the most MVP of an MVP I've ever heard of.
Very MVP.
Yeah. Can you tell us about the Instagram account now and now the current version of Financielle?
I'd love to. So it started off as an Instagram account, and honestly, the vision has always been the same. I know that it is an app, but I always had a vision that we'd build a financial well-being platform. The Instagram account, what was special about it, what was different, is because it was straight talking, maybe pretty northern, but it would cut through the noise and make things simple to understand so that people can take action, not so that they can learn. I really hate the personal finance space, which is so focused on do a course and learn. And it's like, no one's got time to do this. How much do I need to know? So I always had this vision that we'd have a platform where you come to Financielle, you'll find what help you need when it comes to the thing you've got a problem with, the thing you're struggling with, and two, eventually you might find product that can help as well. We're very anti debt, so we don't have any product promoting debt, but we have some really good pension providers, some really good investment platforms, some really good insurance and protection providers, and also so it evolved into an app. And the reason it became an app, again, we were very MVP focused. We started off as an Instagram page. We then went to a workbook, and that was the next MVP. And we charged for that immediately. Like, we didn't just guess that people wanted it. And that was proof in the pudding that not only did people buy it and they handed us money. And I think that's one of the best tests you can have is, put up a landing page and put a wait list here. Do people click it? Well, that's one thing. That's really good. Great. Would they pay for it? Would they pay 100 quid to reserve the thing that you're going to build that you haven't bought yet? Because a lot of businesses are vanity project. I think people obsess over like a website, and they obsess over the product perfect. And what if no one wanted it anyway? So I think we were pretty lucky with Financielle. I think we were lucky that we knew people wanted it, but we were getting validation all the time from Instagram, DMs, buying spreadsheets, buying PDF. The reason that we built the app in the end, Kobi, was because I worked for the travel tech business as a lawyer for 10 years. And so I was all over like tech and platform. And I just knew this was simple. What I wanted to see genuinely was the net worth of the community increasing, because I knew the system that we use would help people pay down debt and build up assets. But people were just telling me this. I've just managed to pay off 10 grand's worth of debt. Me and my wife have managed to cash flow IVF. I've saved my first house deposit. So they're telling me, but I'm like, I want the data, I want the numbers. And the only way I could do that is if everyone was having spreadsheets on their own, like local desktops. It wasn't a community figure. And so I, again, scrapulate, bootstrap, didn't raise money for this, and use the profit, everything, all the revenue that we took from the selling the PDFs and the spreadsheets to build an app using engineers on Upwork, which I wouldn't recommend for the faint-hearted, but between like myself, my sister helped because I'd convinced her to leave her job as well and join me, which is an interesting chat. Ironic, what we used to do. I think ironically, because she worked in partnerships, so she'd been at Manchester United, she'd been at the travel business that I was at, because I poached her for that as well. She'd done a really, really good job, and I think she was a bit bored. And so I had obviously become really financially well using the system and methodology, which was the Financielle playbook, which is a step-by-step guide that you follow on a money journey, and everyone goes through the same process. It's a little bit like the Couch to 5K. It's a leveler. And yes, you might all come out, one might turn into a marathon runner, and one might stick with 5K walks, but it will improve your running and your confidence. And so it was the same concept. And everyone believed in it. Like, don't forget, I'd helped to not turn around, but like improve my parents' finances massively, as there are, mum was in a job she really didn't like, and suddenly was able to kind of reduce her income massively and improve her happiness, and optimize pension in the last 10 years of earning that they want to work. And then my sister had become debt free and bought a bigger house and had started to invest. So really everyone backed the concept and the product and believed in it. And we had the emergency funds to leave, become founders, not pay ourselves for a year, because we could live on tight budgets, because we're budgeting people. So I think, yeah, proves we can do it. And I think, yeah, it was probably a bit reckless, but I think they backed it, and so we used those, and we spec'd the app, and I always knew what it was going to look like. I always knew we'd have a net worth tracker, we'd have a budget tracker, people should track their goals. we'll do some really cool content, and that'll be our differentiator, which is the finance industry is really rubbish at content. Let's write content in our customer language, as you'll know it with your background. And so let's speak like them rather than speaking like the finance industry. And then lastly, let's see if we can build community. We had a community on Instagram, but it was quite more to us. It wasn't to each other. And so in the end, we picked an app. And listen, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's one of the hardest products to build, a D2C app, because there's so many, the funnel's really, really long, and there's so much drop-off. People really struggle to pay for subscription apps sometimes. We're a freemium app, so you can use it for free. But they're on the phones on WhatsApp, they're on the phones on Instagram, and they're on the phones on the banking apps. So it kind of forced us down this route of everything we're going to do here. We have later expanded into web, and that's going really, really well, and we've got more to do there. But the app community is just on fire, and there's just messages every day of people paying off debt, building up savings. So we're still the money platform that I always thought we were going to be. I never thought we would be as female focused as we are, but what started to happen was, the demographic swung to like 85, 90% female. And we were realizing all these gaps that we just didn't know. We knew that there was a pay gap and we knew bits and bobs, but, women starting to decide about whether they should have children or not, what that will do to their pension, what happens if in a relationship breakdown and you've been the lower earner and you've taken a back seat and suddenly, you're not sure about what could happen. Loads of things were impacting women. And no one talking about that. So I'm really proud about the fact that we're really inclusive, like everyone's welcome on our platform. And we've got a lot of very, very financial geeky men that I'm here for. But it's a safe space for women to gain in confidence in an area that I think we've just been so far behind in for so long. Yeah. Massive for our generation. And so, the idea that money could be a barrier to someone becoming a parent if they want to be it's heartbreaking enough. The whole process is heartbreaking. It's becoming a lot more common for people to talk about how many people struggle with fertility, and it really, really is heartbreaking. It's not fair, is it? But the worst thing for me would be that finance was a barrier and someone really could have probably afforded it if they'd have just had a little bit of help. Our first Financielle baby was Isaac in Australia. I'll never forget it. It was an Australian user. And we are global. Yeah, 180 countries we've been downloaded in, and we've got paying users in about 122. We've got different currencies, so yeah, everywhere. But it is predominantly in like Western English app for ease, obviously, and because we're a tiny team. But yeah, in Australia, our first baby was from Isaac, and it was from a couple who were kind of okay earners, had struggled for quite a long time with fertility, and they don't have free healthcare over there. They have some, but IVF just kind of wasn't happening for them. And they just you're just starting off, like you've had your wedding and you're buying a home. That's already hard. So you don't have a wad of cash to go and spend on fertility treatment. So we were chatting, like we did an article about how to cash flow IVF, and what it started off with, obviously try and save if you can first, and if not, pay as you go. They looked at their budget and they realized they had two financed cars. So one was like a big station wagon out there. It's quite a big thing over there in Australia. And one was like a big car, expensive to finance. Probably about, I think, 1,200, 1,300 Australian dollars was going out in what they thought was like an average car. All the friends were having similar cars. And when they kind of read about car finance and about how, actually, whilst there are some pluses to it, the big negative is it's a drain on your income. So much income is going, you double pay. You pay for the margin in the car, you pay for the margin in the finance. So actually, if you could remove your ego and get a car that really doesn't look that nice, but actually is sound mechanically, and you have a little emergency fund for it, instead of paying $1,300 to a car lease company, put it in your IVF pot, pay it to the hospital. And when they suddenly, she said, I remember her saying, we just handed the cars back. We had a little bit in savings. We bought two bangers and we started to pile up cash, and it opened up the IVF journey. And they had a baby. And then they did it with their second as well. And the second, they always thought they wouldn't be able to afford us. It was never going to happen. They were going to save up, they were going to have one. And then it's happened so many times since then. And all that took was looking at something a little bit differently and putting that into action. And yeah, I'm so proud of that. But it's expensive. No, I don't. People don't like me to tell them how expensive it is to exist. nowadays. Never mind, a blocker to have a safe home, leave a relationship or a job that you don't like. Like those are some of the wins that we have at Financielle Kobi. They're not necessarily like, oh, I hit my 50 grand saving goal or my 100 grand net worth. It's, I left a job that I absolutely hated. I work 1 day a week less, or I've moved to be closer to parents, or I've cut my hours and I look after my children more. But I'm still net up financially because I've made some changes. That's like the biggest win. Such the biggest win.
That's awesome. So this podcast is called Aha Moments. So I've got 3 questions for you related to those moments. Oh, magic moment, as you called it, which I also love. So the first question is, can you think of an aha moment? Sorry, this is my doorbell's gone. I've got it wired to a thing.
Looks like you're in a party.
Especially with the flashing Laura Pomfret light.
I'm here for it. There's a disco. It's a Friday afternoon.
Little fish cardboard box. So the first question is, so I've been distracted by that. The first question is, can you think of an aha moment in a product or service that you've a company you work with, or a product or service you've worked on, and how did you get people to that as much as quickly as possible? How do you engineer it? So for yourself, I'd be surprised if you don't talk about Financielle.
Well, no, definitely. And I with Financielle, the aha moment is definitely that you can do this thing. You're just looking at it like that change is possible, and you can take control of your money. And when you have control, you have choices. And like I said before, like money, if you don't tell it what to do, it'll find stuff to do and they'll have a really good time. And I think so many people see so many blockers. And with Financielle, if we can get people, I mean, strictly our aha moments, the budget is a retention tool. Like we did a lot of data on what was the thing that made someone sticky. You've got to get someone to the aha moment in your product or service for them to go, oh, I get it. And we were using Mixpanel to look at what people were doing, and then what were these people doing. And it took us a while because we're non-technical backgrounds, and we just suddenly realized that if we put someone to do a budget properly, the budget that we do is very different to other people. It's like a P&L, and it teaches people about this concept about there has to be an excess, and the excess is the thing that you put toward your financial goal that you're working to at the moment. So no excess, no goal. No excess, no holiday. No excess, no investing. No excess, whatever. So, but if people didn't find that, they just thought we had like a bit of a goal tracker and some really good content, but why would I pay for it? And then you get them to do 1, and then if you can get them to do 2, they're staying. They're not retaining because they've copied it over and they've gone, yes, I'm going to do this again this week. So strictly speaking, in for Financielle, it's that. I think I was thinking about another product that I really enjoy using. I don't know if you've ever used it if you're into fitness, but it's Myzone. Have you heard of Myzone? Oh, there we go. I've jumped it. Getting to the second budget, and like I said, it's not only is I think that's the best demonstration of the Financielle method because it sets out this concept of the profit, the excess, but secondly, people put in their data in, they've made it personal to them. The minute they start to personalize it, like you can put an emoji or a picture on it, you can do the dates around payday, you can add your pots that you're saving up. There's loads of different elements to it. But when we're speaking to people, because we love speaking to customers, we'll speak to 2 a week, we record them, we use them as transcripts. Again, it really helps us with our content. But we're not saying to them, like, what feature do you like? We're saying, how are you? Like, where are you at in your life? What's going on? Why were you looking for something like this? You suddenly realize how passionate they are about their budget. It's theirs. It's not ours. It's not Financielle's budget. It's theirs. So that intrinsic value, like they've given stuff, they've put effort in, they've given time. So if you've got to second budget, they've really engaged with it, and it's become part of the way they manage money. Yeah, it's like you can't imagine it. I'm horrified, but yeah. Do you know what? It's one of the biggest light bulb moments I've had as a business owner. Someone really impressive, really. So the travel business I worked for, the travel tech business, was massive about picking up the phone, speak to people, get to know them, build a relationship, not from a sales point of view, but because it was all about giving a bespoke service. And how can you give a bespoke service? Like if someone emailed you saying, I want a holiday to Tenerife, to just send them back a list of holidays to Tenerife is kind of like what Jet2 can do or Google can do. Like, you've just not added value. But do you know that they need like an accessible hotel? Do they like to go for walks on the beach? Actually, they really love fish. They should be in this fishing village. Like, they don't like night flights. You've got to chat to someone for an hour to get all that out of them. I can't comprehend how few business owners, never mind people, don't speak to their customers. And I think it's because they're afraid it's salesy, or they hide behind a keyboard. If someone's not free for, like, you can set up calls, and especially if there's no agenda for them, people will take them. But people also don't have to answer. But the magic that you get, our most successful advertising campaigns, emails, TikToks, have been using the words directly from our customers' mouths, not words that we think they're saying. Like, I will never summarize from a customer interview. I write exactly. I mean, we've changed it now a couple of times, but our headline on our website was "Get your money shit together," because so many would say, "I feel like I finally got my shit together," or "I needed to get my shit together," over and over and over and over again. We're like, how can they all say the same thing? And it's because it's how they felt. Overwhelm is not a word that we came up with. It's what our customers said. "I'm just overwhelmed. There's just too much. I just can't. I can't." And so for any industry, and if I if ever I move on from Financielle, if ever I do anything differently with any other business or start any other business, the first thing I'm doing is speaking to customers and not over email and not hiding behind that, because the stuff you learn is just everything you need, the secret's there. And I think when people are nervous about jumping on a call, there's two things. One, like, you're just never going to be able to understand properly what your customer needs. But more importantly, like, you could be onto a winner to nothing. Like, if you shy away from customers, even when you've not got a product, you could be building the wrong thing. And what if 2 or 3 calls could have made you go, "I don't need that.
Yeah.
They need this." So it's the biggest thing.
A term I've learned recently, I've been aware of product market fit for the longest time. Language market fit is exactly what you're saying. So you're using their words in that. A few people I've spoken to for this podcast, and I've heard other case studies where you pick out some choice words, that's on the landing page, and suddenly the conversions go up like sometimes like 10 times, because they're just like, "Oh, this is for me. This is like taking the words out of my head that I didn't know I had, and I'm clearly going to go for these guys."
I think it's interesting I think all clients should do this as well. Have a look at the first website they did. If there's it's usually it's something dead corporate and something that you've, a platform to help people with financial well-being. So for example, we had something like that. And Holly said to me, "Laura, no one says that. Who says I want to be financially well?" I'm like, I know that it's a buzzword in the industry, but no one has said that in any of these interviews. Let's put shit on the website, and hey ho, it works. But it is that point that just, I think a lot of first-time websites or first stabs, they're definitely going to be wrong, because that's real life, but also they'll probably not really reflect what it is the customer is looking for.
100%. Second aha moment question is, and you kind of jumped to it, aha moment you've had for yourself in a product or service that you love.
Yeah, so I am really into my fitness, and we've got a nice little gym in our village that I definitely keep going to because my friends go, and it's accountable. And, I think as founders, you do have to look after yourself. And I'm a mother of 3, and my weekends are spent doing stuff for children. And so I am early to bed, early to the gym, and they run off off Myzone, which is a heart rate monitor. Right. Never understood them. I've been a runner for years, like years ago, just zones, no idea. This thing is colours and you get points, and it's so simple. It's gamification, but it wants you to have a minimum number of what's called MEPs in a month. You can follow your friends and see their MEPs. You can see the workouts and the heart rate efforts. And so whilst two things, not only did this product like simplify the concept of heart rate zones, like if someone, like someone the other day saw my heart rate monitor because I was at a class and I had my thing up, and they were like, "Oh, they said 160. I'm like, "You could say 4,000. I don't know what that means." And it's obviously something that just will not stick in my head, even though people have taught me about it. But if he said, "Oh, you were in red. You were in red the whole time," I know that's zone 5 because red's danger. It's the top one. You get the most points for red, but then there's measurement in it. And there was a couple of months when, and so basically you collect points to keep your status, and you go like bronze and silver and gold and platinum and some really cool stuff, and you just get a badge. You get nothing. It's just the gamification, which is not the aha moment, but it's just a nice added bit. But I've never really understood getting the minimums, and what if you wanted to do this? What if you didn't want to go fast? What if you didn't want red? Da, da, da. There was a couple of months where I got poorly, the bad chest, and then got a couple of weeks, and then I've not got any MEPs. And then and then the thing had gone to red and not green on track. And then I was being a bit lazy, and really, I didn't want to go to the gym because it was November a couple of years ago now. And I suddenly remember going, oh my God, I'm going to lose my status. Like, I've done it. I've used it. I've been consistent. I've been getting these ticks. And I said, I don't know, this is a really good aha moment, but for me, it was, oh my God, it's trying to keep me fit. Like, this is what it's for. It's obviously it's retention of product because everyone wants that, but it's saying that if you don't do this amount of exercise, and it's a basic amount, like you need like 1,300 reps, and I'm on 3,300 this month. Some months, if you don't get close to that 1,300, you panic and you're like, I need to go for a long walk. I need to do a double session. And it was the thing that it's just for a pretend score. Like, why am I bothered? And I just think they've been really clever in mixing that you can go slow, you can go fast, but you need to do it, because if you're not moving, it's a consistency. Yeah. And if one, I'm worried that if there's 1 month that I don't hit it, I go, oh, and then my fitness goes out the window. So they've got me. The aha moment for me was suddenly realizing that not only have they gamified it, but they've linked it intrinsically to my health and well-being, and it's not a high target to hit. I don't have to be an Ironman to get this, but if I don't do it, there's no excuse, because really, unless you're really injured, and there's exceptions and stuff, but unless you're really injured or really poorly, you can power walk and get these numbers. But if you're lazy and stay in bed, you don't get them and you lose your status. So I like Myzone. I'm here for it. I finally understand heart rates more than ever as well.
Yeah, I when I was doing a lot more health and fitness stuff, Strava was my main driver, and that was more because I'd see my friends or other people I know doing things and be like, no, if Jack's out, I need to be out as well, because that's not right.
It's very similar to that. Like, they've used community, they've used tracking, they've used accountability, but it's to get you to do something positive, which is awesome.
Last aha moment question is aha moment for yourself, or life hack, a personal one that you'd like to share with people.
I think I'm going to nick the one we said at the beginning, but I think, the one about like just making a decision and not overthinking it. Sure, I think as I'm getting older, I'm definitely more comfortable. I'm more comfortable being vulnerable. I'm more comfortable getting things wrong. I am definitely at that age where, like, my eldest is, oh my gosh, she's 14 in 2 weeks, and then my youngest is 2.
Oh, wow.
And especially with the old one, she's so intelligent and so calm, but so she's really impressive. And you go from being this, like, for the 2-year-old, I'm like the star of the world and I know everything, and I'm like his carer, and I'm I'm holding his hand through life, even though he might not like it. But she is teaching me stuff. And so that I think as I've got into my late 30s, I'm getting more comfortable that I don't know everything, but actually not everyone else does either. What else, whether it's in business, whether it's in socials, so many people don't know what they're doing, and that's okay. Yeah. Like, my role at the BBC, like today I've been on with James Martin, which a year ago I might have been starstruck. Today I was chatting to a guy from Yorkshire who cooks really well, and he is normal and will mess up sometimes and doesn't know everything. And then I did my piece and he was like, oh my God, that was amazing, how do you remember all that stuff? I was like, I don't know, how do you cook them prawns? Like, that's really weird. And it's just this confidence that comes with, we don't know everything, and we can get things wrong. People get stuff wrong all the time. And again, for most of us, we're not saving lives. So I think that's been a hack of mine, to be like, do you want pizza or pasta? I'm like, pasta. And they go, oh. I'm like, well, obviously you wanted pizza then. I think that's all right. I think we spend too much time worrying about what people think. And actually, just to close, and I think my sister always says this, so I'll give this to my Holly's aha moment, is we're the main character of our lives, but we're not the main character of anyone else's, because everyone is the main character of their own. Yeah. So sometimes if it's because of an event or a client or a business thing, like, you might think that it's like someone's going to be really bothered if you get it wrong, or really bothered, but actually they're going to crack on and get on with their own life. And so accepting that you're the main character of yours, but not everyone's, I think can relieve you of some pressure of making a right decision. So I'm going to go with that one, if that's all right.
No, absolutely love it. Thank you so much. Cheers, Laura. I assume you're happy for people to get in contact with you on LinkedIn and visit the Financielle website?
Always come and have a look at us. But again, any business owners, like if you ever want to ask any questions, like I said, you have to speak to customers, and Kobi and I both agree on that. And so if anyone wants any chat about that, just come find me on LinkedIn. It's been so nice to share my aha moments with you. Thank you very much.
No worries. And I will link to Financielle and yourself on LinkedIn on the show notes and in the YouTube. And guys, get in contact with Laura. This has been great. Cheers, Laura. Thanks for doing this. It's been fantastic.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura, for joining me on Aha Moments podcast. And thank you guys for listening and watching, depending on how you're consuming this content. Please do all the things that we said in the episode. Do contact Laura. Her details for her LinkedIn are in the show notes. And also Financielle. Go to the App Store, download it, use it, get to that aha moment of doing your budget twice. Aha moments, because that's when you get the feels for and know how the product works. Other than that, guys, please do leave a comment, like, subscribe to this podcast or this YouTube video as you're watching it. Please do share with your friends. That's one of the biggest things you can do. Tell other people about this podcast, tell other people about this episode, tell other people about Financielle. It really does help everyone involved. And of course, like I like to say, sharing is caring.